How do you define care when it comes to the body? And how has that definition shifted over time? As it currently feels like we're in a bit of an era of more burnout and chronic illness. And let me start, Tiff, with you based on the physical therapist's hat.
Mhm. Okay. So I think early on in my career, I was always focused on the outcomes, fixing the problem, getting better, trying to get back to baseline. But what I learned over the years is we don't even have to be there. You know what I mean? Preventive care is going to be key, in anything we do. So one thing, listening to your body, respecting its signals, supporting your body through movement and what you put in your body. Um, I feel like, consistency is care, not just trying to fix the problem when you have an exacerbation or when you have, an issue, and I think we're all guilty of that. Sometimes, look, when I know sometimes I put on my blazer and it's a little bit tight, I'm like, okay, nah, I got to get back to the gym. And then I'll start going to the gym, lose a few pounds. All right. And then I'm back at it, and it's a cycle. So I think the key is going to be trying to find some kind of pattern of consistency of doing what we need to do and listening to our bodies. If you have knee issues, if you have brittle bones, every pound you gain is going to add 4 pounds to your joint. Um, when the weather flares up, you're going to feel it in your joints. You're going to start to get arthritic. You're going to start having long-term problems. So the key is trying to fix that beforehand. Make sure you're eating the right things. Like I said before, making sure you move, and then movement can be in a bunch of different types of avenues. It doesn't have to be going to the gym. It could be taking a hike with your friends. It could be dancing in your living room. Twice a week. So just doing whatever you need to do to try to avoid, chronic long-term illnesses, as well as making sure you're staying up on your doctor's appointments. When they recommend, when you're 40 plus as a woman, go get your mammogram. When you're a guy, when you're 45, you need to go get your colonoscopy. Doing those preventive measures helps a lot.
Yeah, that resonates. Consistency is key. Is big. I think somewhere we know that, right? But we
Mhm.
still really struggle to find
Absolutely.
the consistency for ourselves. I
Absolutely.
also have seen and had a lot of conversations where people get discouraged if they can't, like, if I can't go do the big workout that I want to do
Mhm.
that's going to last an hour,
Right.
I just do nothing
Right.
versus maybe doing the 20-minute workout or even the 10-minute jump rope or whatever, and finding kind of that consistency around the 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So I've definitely seen the struggles based on some of what you're sharing. And I'll probably come back to you on a little bit more around, like, what is the bare minimum that we should be thinking about
Mhm.
to at least maintain. I've seen a little bit of research on some of that. So I'll probably come back to you on that in a
Okay.
minute. So
Okay.
Whitney, same question to you. How do
Yeah.
you define care when it comes to the body, and how has that definition shifted over time?
Yeah. Well, I have to agree on some points with Tiffany. I do think that consistency is important, but I think the way that I've learned to reframe it, the deeper I go into midwifery, is that consistency isn't just frequency. It's not how often we do something, but it's also how does it feel. So like an hour workout might not feel right for some folks,
Mm.
like my partner is a huge consistency person. Like we can only eat bananas in this house when they are firm, and consistency is so important. So yeah, it should also be about how does it feel, and especially being a student midwife, when we're telling people to, to go to all of these annual or biannual or, repetitive doctor's appointments. While those are important, like they don't always feel great. And I think especially as
Mhm.
Black and queer folks, we can just kind of acknowledge that it doesn't always feel great to be in that space. And so what are the other modalities of care that are super important? So for me, care is and has become, showing up to my best friend's house and working with her to put soup on the table and then in the freezer, right? Making sure that she has that type of like nutritive care. It can look like, sitting on the couch and venting and talking when folks don't have, $200 an appointment to go and see a therapist, and being that for each other. And so care for me has really become about community. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the village that we have? How can we be leaning on people for their strengths and weaknesses? And I think especially as I've shifted from being a doula to being a midwife, really, having boundaries around, this is what I can do to support you. And this is where my scope runs out. This is where I actually can't do more. And I either need to refer you or let me introduce you to this other person in our village who can hold you in this way. And so, care is about caring, and I think too often we as women or people who've been socialized as femmes feel that we have to do a lot of that caring work. But for me, caring again has just been, what does it feel like? Does it feel good for me to be the nurturing person in this space? No. Okay, so who else can do it? And it also doesn't have to look like somebody that looks like me. It can be somebody else, stepping in to pick up this load. And so caring is sharing. Caring is about sharing that load and and just considering like how can we as a community show up for each other better, especially when we know the medical industrial complex that is, or these clinics and doctors and all that, they don't always support us in the ways that we need to be supported. So it's definitely evolved, and I feel like I could talk and talk and talk and talk about care, but yeah, it's changed over the 9 years that I've been in this work.